The biggest lie women believe about Facebook. Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back. I am Penny Inches, your direct selling success coach, and I help women just like you to learn what the right Facebook strategies are to build a more successful direct selling or network marketing business. So you are in the right place if that is what you feel you need to learn, right? And we are going to talk about that today. So, what I want to know is, have you ever found yourself saying, Facebook just doesn't work anymore? Or maybe you've thought, the algorithm hates me, nobody sees my posts, Facebook used to work, but not anymore. I've heard all of these things, right? If you've ever said any of those things, you are definitely not alone, right? I, in fact, hear that almost every single week. Women tell me, Penny, Facebook is dead. I'm like, no, no, no. Or, it's impossible to get engagement. I think I need to find another platform, right? And you think, oh gosh, I need to go be on YouTube and I need to be on Instagram and I need to be doing, I don't know, all the gazillion other options out there, right? And every time I hear these things, right? Every time I hear these, I smile. And it's not because I'm laughing at them. Absolutely not, right? It's because I completely understand why they feel that way, right? But I also know something that they don't know yet, right? But, it's just, it's funny, right? It just, people who say Facebook are dead, it's just like, oh my goodness, right? So wrong. So today I actually I want to challenge what I believe is one of the biggest lies women in direct selling and network marketing believe about Facebook, right? And the lie is this: Facebook doesn't work anymore. Right? Now, before you switch this podcast off because you think I'm about to tell you that the algorithm is amazing, I'm not, right? Facebook has changed, right? Massively, right? And it's very different to what it looked like 10 years ago, right? Actually, it's very different to what it looked like 2 years ago. The algorithm does change, features change, the way people use Facebook changes. That's absolutely true. But here's what isn't true: that Facebook doesn't work, right? The fact is, there are globally over 2 billion, not million, 2 billion active Facebook users every single day, right? It's like over 3 billion monthly users and it's over 2 billion active users every single day, right? So if Facebook didn't work anymore, people wouldn't, those numbers wouldn't be like that, right? And if it didn't work anymore, why are businesses still growing every single day, right? Why are people still discovering new brands? Why are creators, influencers still building huge audiences, right? None of that would be happening. Why are women inside my Beehive membership program getting more engagement, more inquiries, and more sales than they've had in years, right? Facebook isn't broken. It is different though. It is a little bit different, right? But here's where I think so many women really do get stuck, right? They are trying to keep on using today's Facebook like it's Facebook from 5 or even 10 years ago, right? Now, I want to take you back for a minute. If you know some of my history, you will have heard me talk about this before, but if you're a bit newer here, you may not have heard me talk about this. I got into the direct selling industry back in 2006. That's when I started a direct selling business, and I spent 16 years in the industry, right? Facebook wasn't even around back then, right? Can you actually believe that? Like, does anybody remember a world without Facebook? Yeah, we do. For those of us who are in our 50s, absolutely you do, right? It's been around since around 2008, 2009, it all started tuning up, right? So back then, building a business looked completely different, right? It was all about the home parties, coffee catch-ups, catalogs, phone calls, going out doing events. That's how we built businesses, right? And then Facebook arrived, right? I started using it myself around 2009. I can't remember exactly. I think it was 2009. But like everyone else, I was learning as I went, right? Nobody really knew what they were doing. We were all experimenting. And look, and I really loved it. I've got a little bit of a creative bent and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun, right? And it gave me the opportunity to connect with so many more people from so many different areas areas, right? I come from the country. I grew up in Sydney, but I've lived in the country for most of my life, right? And so living in a country area, it suddenly gave me this opportunity to reach people so much further afield, just like it does today, right? Facebook gives you that opportunity to build relationships, to stay visible, and it gave me that opportunity to grow my business beyond the people I physically knew, right? And it became one of the biggest reasons I was able to build a multi-million-dollar direct selling business, right? But here's the interesting thing. Because even back then, nobody really taught us how to use Facebook strategically for business, right? We learned how to use Facebook socially, how to upload photos, comment on friends' posts, wish people happy birthday, share your holiday snaps, watch funny videos, scroll for hours. We've all done it, right? We became really good at using Facebook as social media, right? As just hanging out and interacting, okay? But nobody actually sat us down and said, here's how you actually use Facebook if your goal is to grow a business, right? And I think that's where so much frustration comes from today, because women say to me, I've been on Facebook for years. And I'm like, exactly, so have I, right? But using Facebook and using Facebook strategically for business are two completely different things, right? Chalk and cheese, totally different kettle of fish if you want to be using Facebook to grow a direct selling or network marketing business or any other sort of business online, realistically, right? Let me give you an example. Okay, so imagine someone handed you a car. Wouldn't that be nice? Just hand you a car. Here you go, have a car, have a car, have a car. Wasn't that an Oprah moment, right? You get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, right? But imagine that when Oprah gave you that car, and you'd never had a car before, nobody explained what the pedals did. Nobody showed you where the indicators were. Nobody taught you the road rules. They simply handed you the keys. Oprah handed you the keys and said, good luck, enjoy your car, right? But you had no idea, you never had one before, and you had no idea how to use it. And you had no idea what to do, right? And a few weeks later, you drive into a fence. Would you come home and say, cars don't work? Of course not, right? You'd probably say, nobody ever taught me how to drive. I need to learn how to drive, right? And I honestly think Facebook is exactly the same, right? Millions of women have been handed Facebook. They've gone, here's Facebook, use your, post on your profile, create a customer group, create a Facebook business page, off you go, right? And, you've been using it every single day for years, quite possibly, right? But often nobody's actually shown you how to use it to actually build a successful business, right? Instead, what I see happen for so many women, and I'd love to know if this is you, right? Instead, maybe it's been that you've been guessing, right? Or you've copied other people, or you've followed trends, or you've watched what everyone else is doing, right? You've posted products, you've shared the occasional special, and then crossed your fingers and hoped, right? Now, guess what? Hope is not a business strategy, right? I'm here to tell you that one. If you hang out in my world long enough, you will hear me say that quite a bit. Then when nothing much happens, they decide, well, Facebook doesn't work. But can you see the difference? Can you see the difference? It's not that Facebook doesn't work. It's that nobody ever taught them how to make Facebook work for their business. Is that you? Because honestly, I don't think that's their fault. If you're identifying with this, if you're nodding along going, yes, oh my gosh, Penny, yes, 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 it's not your fault, right? It's that you've never been taught how to use Facebook for business, right? And I see this all the time inside of my Beehive program, right? Women who come and join me because they're not getting results for their biz from Facebook, right? And they'll say things like, I've been on Facebook for 15 years. I post all the time. I've tried everything. I just don't think Facebook works anymore, right? And then we start working together. They come and watch all my pre-recorded trainings, as well as showing up to my weekly live group coaching calls, right? And I'm not teaching complicated metrics. We're not chasing the latest algorithm updates. And it's certainly not that, they're trying to beat Facebook, right? I simply start with all of those trainings that you've got access to inside my program. I simply start teaching them the right strategies, okay? The right strategies for Facebook, for if you want to build a successful and profitable direct selling or network marketing business, right? And there's strategies that they've never been taught before, right? And that's when the light bulb comes on, right? They suddenly realize, I've known how to use Facebook socially all these years, but I've never actually learned how to use Facebook to build a business, right? And that realization changes everything, right? Because instead of blaming Facebook, they become curious, right? And they start asking better questions, right? So instead of, saying like, why isn't Facebook working? They ask, what strategy should I be using here? And the great thing is, that's a much more powerful question, because strategy changes results, not complaining about the algorithm, right? And inside of my program, you get all of the training, all of the support that you need to understand what works on Facebook and what doesn't, right? And you see, one of the biggest mistakes I see women making is thinking that success on Facebook is about posting more, right? Simply posting more. That doesn't work, right? If you've been hanging out in my world for a while, you would know it's not, and you would already know my thoughts on that, right? Because posting more of the wrong thing doesn't magically become the right strategy, right? If you're not posting the right thing, it doesn't matter how many times you post it, it's not going to work, right? If I gave you a map to Sydney, it wouldn't help you get to Perth, would it? Right? You could follow it perfectly, but you'd still end up in the wrong place, okay? The same thing happens on Facebook. I see women work incredibly hard, right? They might be being consistent. They're committed. They're showing up, but they're following the wrong map, right? So they work harder thinking that's what's going to make a difference. They think posting more is going to make a difference, right? They spend more time creating fancy graphics in Canva. Don't get me wrong. I love Canva. But, there's a simpler way to do things, right? More time writing captions, more time wondering why everyone else seems to be getting the results that they're not getting, when really it's not about working harder, right? It's about following the right strategies. Now, before anyone misunderstands me, right, I'm not saying Facebook is easy, okay? It still requires consistency. It still requires effort. It still requires patience. Like, Facebook's always having a good old little fiddle day in, day out. I have days where I just look at what Facebook has changed and I'm just like, oh my goodness. Seriously, why? Right? We like how it works. But, it does. It changes constantly, right? But what I want to say is, when you understand why you're doing something, it actually becomes so much easier, right? When you don't, when you're not sort of, overwhelmed and confused, right? When you're no longer randomly posting because someone told you to post 3 times a day, but you don't actually know what to post in those 3 times a day. You're posting with purpose, right? You're no longer copying someone else's content because you don't know what to say, right? You're creating content that builds trust. You're no longer hoping that someone reaches out. You're intentionally creating opportunities for conversation, right? You're doing attraction marketing, okay? Can you see how different that can feel? It's empowering, right? Because suddenly you're back in control again, right? Not Facebook, not the algorithm, you, okay? And I think this is one of the biggest gifts that strategy gives us, right? When you understand what strategies actually work, it replaces that frustration that you've been feeling with confidence, right? It replaces the guessing and the overwhelm with clarity, right? When you know what you're actually got to say and why you got to say it, okay? And clarity helps create consistency, right? When you know what you're supposed to be doing, when you've got a plan in place of content that is actually going to work, it's so much easier to show up consistently, right? And consistency creates trust. Trust creates customers. Trust creates team members, right? And trust builds businesses. You've got to build know, like, and trust. People buy from people, okay? And that's why I'm so passionate, right, about teaching Facebook strategy to women in the direct selling and network marketing industry, right? And it's not because I want women spending more time online. It's quite the opposite, right? I want them spending less time wondering what to do and more time doing the things that actually make a difference. So today, if you found yourself saying Facebook doesn't work anymore, if you've ever said this to yourself, right? Can I encourage you to reframe it? Instead, what I want you to ask yourself is, have I ever actually been taught how to use Facebook strategically to build a business, right? And if the answer is no, we need to chat, because these are two very different questions. And I have a feeling for many of you listening today, that question might just change everything. Do you think? Let me know. So thank you so much for joining me for another episode. I hope you have found it helpful. Please do let me know. I love to receive testimonials about my podcast. It helps inspire others to come and have a listen as well. And of course, if this encouraged you today, I would love for you to share it with another woman in direct selling or network marketing who needs to hear this message as well. I'd also love you to think about one question this week. And the question is, am I blaming Facebook or am I simply ready to learn a better strategy? I'd love to hear your answer. I will see you next week. Now, don't forget, I want to ask, tell me, or if you haven't, have you subscribed to my podcast on YouTube or Spotify yet? And are you following me on Facebook? And then, of course, if you would like to book in for a free chat with me to discuss where you are at in your direct selling or network marketing business, do send me a DM with the word roadmap. See you on Facebook, or see you next week. Bye.